This episode has been brought to you from the DGMS Studios, home of Don't Get Me Started, Lethal and Mully Live, and Surftown. Found at Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Hello and welcome to Don't Get Me Started. It's the mother of all podcasts with Keith and Lee. Hi, I'm Lee.
And I'm Keith.
It's been a rainy day today. It's wet and miserable, but you're in the house again, Mully. How are you?
Well, I'm great, and I'm really pleased to be here because the moment I walk in that door, sit down in the chair in front of the microphone, I look across the desk and see your smiling face, Lee. It's all sunshine, warmth in here, and almost warm and fuzzy. So, man, I'm feeling good.
Yeah, mate, I'm in my happy place. It just seems to be a long time since we get here, so we're going to have to do something a little bit more, podcasts and more often, and create more podcasts. You up for it?
Absolutely. As you know, we're new to this game. We're only in our 10th month, I think, and we're both enjoying the energy and the repartee that we have between each other and the various subjects that we tackle. So, yeah, I'm up for whatever you want to put on the table to increase.
The repartee, I love that.
Yeah, well, it is. You know, all those times in the beginning when I'd come in here feeling good and you'd have all these little jabs at me about my identity, other little personal things. You know, I'm an old-fashioned bloke, you know, who gets off on Clint Eastwood movies. You know, you're touching a raw...
You do not watch movies, Mully. Your head's in a book all the bloody time.
Oh, I have seen some movies, actually.
I know. Oh, that was all part and parcel of the beginning of our podcast, and we thought it'd be a good idea to add a little bit of spice to it. And I enjoyed it. But like everything, you sort of run out of gas and you're thinking, time to move on. And it's been a special year. It's been an incredible year. And like everybody I speak to today, they say, we can't believe it's Christmas. It's coming up to Christmas already. And I remember January thinking, oh, well, that's all the festivities done. No more booze, no more alcohol. We start the year and then bang, we're here again.
Well, we are indeed, and the date today is the 11th of December, so exactly 2 weeks before Christmas Day.
3 weeks to the new year.
So in 3 weeks, another year starts.
Another year starts. And I thought, and I've mentioned this to you before, about just revisiting the year on how we started.
Our podcast year.
Yeah, and how we got together and our favourite and our least favourite and our ugly favourite.
The good, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, which we've discussed. Good movie.
I did see that one.
Lee Van Cleef. What a guy.
Was Clint in it?
Clint, yeah, he was in spaghetti westerns.
There you go.
But anyway, the topic is, Mully, the good. So let's start off with you. What was your favourite podcast episode?
That we have done this year on Don't Get Me Started?
What we have done on Don't Get Me Started.
Oh, I think it would have to be episode 33.
Episode 33.
Humour and laughter.
Right.
I think we'd reached a point well into our podcasting year and experience because this was our first year and we just started off not really knowing what we were doing or with any particular audience in mind or even any goals at all in any way. We became a lot more relaxed with each other, the way that we related when broadcasting or podcasting. And we started to loosen up a little bit, not take ourselves so seriously. And we were starting to enjoy it to the point where we wanted to just simply talk about laughter, as much as anything, and humour. Because one of the things that we touched on during that episode was that in today's society where I think we're moving past political correctness, where we're almost at a point where you have to be correct in the sense of being perfect, present yourself the right way, say the right things, announce that you're following the right trend, have a certain image, how to talk. And in that, there's a sternness that we lose a sense of fun just being able to laugh.
Well, that's episode 33, so we were pretty much into it at that point.
Yeah.
When we first started out, I read a lot of stuff of how to... I remember saying to you, let's take it back to the beginning. Keith and I have known one another for over 30 years. We've been competitive in everything, and we're on different sides of the fence, and every now and again, we sit together and we agree on stuff. And we thought, let's do a podcast. And I thought, Mully, what do you reckon? And he went, yeah, why not? And of course, I thought it'd be easy. Went back, started going, holy dooly, this isn't as easy as I thought. It's been a learning process all the way through. And our first attempt was pretty awful.
Our first 10 attempts, I think,
it was awful.
Pretty average.
The sound quality, until we sort of grew up and learned a bit more, it's fantastic. It was amazing. And so we're 33 episodes in, humour and laughter, which gained 12 downloads, rather.
Now, downloads is only an indication of downloads. It does not tell us how many people have just listened without downloading.
That's right.
Now, just going back to a couple of things you said there about us being competitive, I think I'm ahead on the score sheet, aren't I?
Again, I'm going to have to do it again, Mully. We've done this before. No, you're not, Mully.
I want to see a written account of all of this.
Anything swimming, anything surfing, down pad, it's you.
Aren't I in front with tennis?
No.
Golf?
No.
Push-ups?
Wrestling? No.
Arm wrestling?
No. Golf?
What about left-handed arm wrestling?
Table tennis? No.
Nothing. What about running around the block?
Yeah, because you cheated.
I knew where the shortcut was through the lane. I just admitted it, sorry.
There was one time, I'm going to tell listeners, where we were working. It's a really hot day, 35 degrees. We were working in Sunshine Beach. And Keith goes, let's go for a dip in the ocean. I said, no worries. True Keith and Lee form. Let's see who could run to the ocean and get in there first. It was on sand, hot. We were running. Who tried to trip me over? Bloody Mully.
Were we in our underpants at public beach
or
just our work shorts?
That was another one. Now, that was the other time where we were working down Lake Wyber, and it was a really hot afternoon. We were working on a new house. There was a lovely sparkling blue swimming pool next door. And you said, come on, Lee, let's just jump over the fence and get in the pool. And I went, yeah, no worries. So stripped down to our undies, jumped over the fence, jumped in the pool, and we went splash, and it was lovely. And then as we came up, all of a sudden looking at us were these two dogs.
Big ones too.
Big dogs, mate. And then we've gone, oh, great. And their tails wasn't waggling. And so we quickly jumped out, jumped over the fence. But no, so even down to that point, Mully, couldn't get me on the running either. But you have got 11 years on me, so...
No, there you go. So no substitute for maturity.
Absolutely not.
And wisdom. See, and one of the reasons why I thought that episode was my good was because I believe in humour and laughter. And I don't think there's enough in the world.
There isn't.
We've just come through that politically correct era. People want to counsel people. People are offended with what other people say. And it's like, dude, loosen up. Enjoy life. We don't have to be that intense. Have your opinions, by all means. Be passionate about your opinions. But don't allow it to take your chill out of life.
Yeah,
Come on, we've only got one shot at this.
I love to laugh.
Well, speaking of which, I do have a joke. It's a short one.
Okay.
This married guy is away on a work trip and he's missing his wife. So he rings her up. He's thinking deep romantic stuff. She picks up the phone. He says, hi, honey. Can you remember the last time we had sex? And she responded, oh, who is this? You know why people... Why? Well, the question I want to ask is, why do people have so many jokes about sex?
Well, because it's meant to be a beautiful act of love. 9 out of 10 times, you're giggling all the way through it.
I'm leaving that one alone. I mean, that's a whole episode within itself. Well, everybody enjoys it. And, of course, it's loaded. There's all these different layers to it, whatever. People maybe even a prude, but still secretly would like to hear about sex or to find out something about it or even enjoy a good, clean joke like
Excellent.
that.
I like it. Now, my episode, good. It was episode 23, and it was time away from your partner or not.
Oh, that was a good one, yeah.
And I like that because at that time, my wife was in Vipassana. But many times, and I think a healthy relationship is you do spend time away from another. I think it gives you space, it gives you time to miss that person, but also to know yourself. And with the meditation that she has done and came back and I had a go at it, I must admit it did help the savage soul, as I said on the podcast.
Wait a minute. You actually stopped your mind and had a go at meditating.
Well, I could never stop it, but it slowed it down. I hope that you're enjoying the podcasts and the content that we're bringing to you each week. I want to take a moment to invite you to support the show. Your contributions help us continue creating high-quality episodes, bringing in exciting guests and exploring the topics you love. Every bit helps. whether it's a small donation or signing up for our Patreon account. By supporting us, you're not just helping keeping the lights on, you're becoming part of our community and helping us grow. To show our appreciation, we offer exclusive perks, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more for our supporters. So if you love what we do and you want to see us thrive, please consider signing up at buzzsprout.com/don't get me started. Support the show. Thank you for being part of our journey, and let's keep the conversation going.
But isn't meditation, and some of our listeners could get in contact with us and correct me because I don't really know much about it, but my understanding is that you have to be still and empty your mind to meditate.
But you never can.
And you actually tried to do that?
I may be wrong and probably am. And again, please send us an email to correct us if we're talking BS here. But I tried and I just could not empty my mind. Maybe if I went to Vipassana for 10 days and meditated 8 hours a day, maybe.
Oh, no, man, I couldn't do that.
But as we said on the podcast, I don't think I could. And good on the people that have, and they love it, and they go multiple times, like my wife has. But yeah, I loved that for many reasons. And it had 23 downloads.
Right up there.
Yeah. So, but the other thing I've got to mention here is halfway through our podcast journey, Keith and I had a little tete-a-tete, and we sort of stopped it. Actually, no, that's wrong. I stopped it, and we started again, and I think we went to another plateau from that moment on. And so it probably got more downloads than what I'm saying here because we split halfway through, and then everything that we had before, we started again. So now it's probably double, 3 times that if we would have carried on. But the essence of it for me, for that journey from the beginning to where we are now, has been nothing but phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought this up, actually, because it's kind of a benchmark that highlights what is actually, not highlights, but is a marked point in what has actually happened here. We decided to do a podcast together. We had no experience. We had not had a history in media in any way, although I'd done a lot of public speaking and various other things, according to some of the avenues in life that I've been down, which I won't go into. But we had to grow and we had to educate ourselves. We had to build a studio, which all of those things took considerable time and effort and money to make it all grow and come to the point where we are now. So our podcast is only 10 months old. All the way through that, we've seen it grow and expand. We've seen more countries come on board. We've seen more cities right around the world. We're able to look at demographics of our listeners, and it's grown and grown. And you and I, Lee, have developed the dynamic between us, ourselves personally. We've learned how to work together. So this has grown to a point where it's been a phenomenal year for us as podcast hosts, but also personally. And I think it's not only deepened our friendship, but our podship, if I could say that. I can't imagine doing a pod without you. I couldn't do it.
Same here, Mully. And it's been a journey of self-discovery as well. And it's not 10 months, it's only 9 months. 9 months, which is nothing really. But to have achieved what we've done, and this isn't our only podcast, I must say that Mully is growing further and deeper and wider in the surfing community, which he has been a part of for many, many years. And when I listen to him interviewing the guys of the day that are the giants of surfing and standing on the shoulders of giants, I'm amazed by Mully's knowledge of how much he knows about surf. Every now and again, he takes me back, and I'm listening to these interviews, and I'm learning so much about surfing, which I knew nothing about. And now I'm thinking it's a rich culture, and Mully's going from strength to strength. So well done, Mully.
Thank you, Lee.
The other one we have is Noosa Now, where we celebrate the people and the diverse cultures of Noosa who love Noosa and who come to Noosa and make Noosa their home, which Mully and I have done. And that has been an eye-opener too, because there's been so many stories that we haven't told our listeners about Noosa. But we will, and we're going to do, I think, maybe a 3-part series on the underbelly of Noosa.
Oh, yes, and it needs to be told.
Which is fascinating.
Absolutely.
From a sleepy little village to what it is now. And also what we do, we have the studio here and we lease out the studio to other podcasts. And a lady came in today interviewing with a property manager, and she was saying some interesting stuff about Noosa that I didn't really realise. And it's changed so much to when I came here 30 years ago, and you would probably agree, Mully,
Yes.
as well. The demographics now, what she was saying, is just phenomenal. And I might share them later on, but next week is our last podcast for the year. But we thought that this time we can just get all the year done out the way, emphasize on our podcast and one another. And in that, let's bring on Mully what was his worst episode.
So that was good, which was humour and laughter. The bad for me was 10 questions. Now, the reason for that is very simple. Actually, I do like the concept of 10 questions. The reason it's my bad episode is that we were young. I think it was number 10 in our podcast journey. We didn't really know our dynamics or how we were working or what we were doing or what we had or how the thing was growing around us. Some of the questions I didn't really have good answers for, and I didn't feel like it was a true reflection of who I am or what I really see or feel or how I am.
And I remember, because you was in Sydney, we had a couple of goes and then the sound quality wasn't up to scratch. And then we tried all different formats. We went through Zoom, we went through WhatsApp, down the phone, but for some reason it just wasn't working. And then I worked out in podcasting, you've got to find the solution to the problem. And of course, when you read it, you find out, okay, I know what to do, Mully. Did it much better, and we finally got through it.
So somebody now can come talk to us via phone or WhatsApp or whatever, and we don't have that sound deficiency we had back in those early days, which was one of the things that marked this episode, yes.
Yeah, we don't have the delay or the sound, the feedback through the mic. Now, it's all changed now with the Rodecaster Pro 2. It's just an incredible piece of machinery.
So the other thing that I found difficult about 10 questions is there's two things in life that people lie about: sex and money. Now, the reason they do that, when you think about it, is because they're loaded. Sex in particular has morals, social standings, and you can't, for example, if you have a weird taste, publicly say, I do such and such, I like such and such, right? You can be judged harshly. Money also has status involved in it. How many people would publicly say, look, I've only got $473 in the bank? How many others would say, look, I've got $5.6 million in the bank?
Yeah.
You know, people lie about those things because they're loaded. So when the 10 questions came, it's really difficult, I think, for me personally to answer 10 questions that may be well thought through that would reveal the true Keith, the true Mully. Because there's a lot of things about me, well, not a lot of things, but some things about myself, and I'm sure others are the same, that we don't want to say publicly.
Yeah, but I formulated the questions that you didn't have to.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They were questions that could have gone a little bit further, halfway between telling the reality and just what do I like? Do you like Taylor Swift or do you like, I don't know, Shia?
I remember one of the questions were, can you explain yourself in 3 words? And what I was trying to put across is saying sensitive, thoughtful and kind. That was and then Mully went, a good bloke.
Well, I'm not sure I've got those 3 qualities.
And that was it. Good. Okay, I said. If anybody does want to listen to it, which I wouldn't recommend, but anyway, you'll hear it. And I go, well, okay, it wasn't meant to be after. But yeah, it probably does read that way. So, but yeah, I agree. It was a bad episode, not because of the questions, but just I think you and I think it was our 4th or 5th attempt at it.
Yeah, we had to do it multiple times.
We were over it. Well, I was over it.
Yes,
and I was so thankful at the end. And I said to you, thank God, Mully, you can put that to rest.
Yeah.
The other one that I was meant to say with the good, I was in conflict with what one to say is my favourite. But the one that I nearly said was the implications of saying yes or no.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
I like that.
Yes.
Because what happened is that you and I changed tack in between. So we became opposite to what we were. And then you were saying no more and I was saying yes more.
Wasn't that interesting? Because that's happened a few times as we've spoken. And I think this is a testimony to how you and I have grown through all of this. Sometimes when you hit a vein of what you are talking about, whether you're an expert or not, something profound may come out. And there's things that I've heard you say and I'm sitting here and I think, I didn't know that. Or if I adjust myself that way, that's going to be helpful for me.
Yeah.
So I'm learning here.
And I love the podcast too, because I want to explain to our listeners, all our podcasts are non-scripted. We have a topic, we discuss it before, and then we go, you go ready, and then we press the button, and then we're on. So we're not reading off a Elgato prompter, or we've got heaps of notes. I like having a couple of little notes, so does Mully. But all these are non-scripted, and it's incredible what comes out from them. But yeah, I was thinking, I like the yes or no one.
Yeah, no, that was good. One of our keen listeners who was a guest a couple of weeks ago, Ross, he said it was a really good episode. He liked that one.
I love that for sure. Okay, Mully, moving on. Ugly.
The ugly would be episode number 8, which is technology, the good and the bad. And again, I think our first 12 episodes was us starting out. We didn't really know what we were doing, feeling our way, and we hadn't quite hit our straps.
No.
But also, I found that I didn't really know enough about technology to say the obvious. The bad is that we spent too much time gazing into screens. And that was about all I had to say about the bad and a few other little associated points of view from that perspective. The good, of course, is that it's given us the World Wide Web that you and I can sit in our brilliant studio now and do this podcast, and people all over the world are listening to us. God bless them. I don't know why. I think some people mustn't have television. But thank you for tuning in. We love you heaps. We really do.
Yeah, Keith was saying before that we're heard in so many countries and cities. At the moment, because we get all our feedback from Buzzsprout, and it marks down every city of every country and every continent that we've been listening to. And I'm very humbled and very thankful and amazed that we are listened in 19 countries and 40 cities over 6 continents.
It's amazing.
From 2 old fellas, well, an older fella and...
Well, let's use the word mature.
2 mature fellas, mate,
veterans.
That just want to have a chat and just like being in each other's company, that is using technology.
To be in the company of listeners.
That's right.
So it's not just you and I always feel like there's people out there who are part of our conversation.
And I want to thank them profusely, because without you guys, and we get the response back and all the statistics, we're blown away every time. We can't believe it.
We're on the rise, Lee. Do you think Joe Rogan's getting nervous?
Oh, not yet.
Not
I
yet.
don't think he'd be losing any sleep over it.
Oh, I saw the last clip of his, or a recent clip of his, and he's at the microphone with a cigar.
Yeah, you said.
We should get some in here.
I'd love to. Christmas coming up, mate. We should have a nice little bourbon. An old-fashioned we should have.
Imagine that. Imagine we could get a little bit cut and we start slurring.
Yeah, I've done that before, mate. I won't be doing that again.
Yeah, but one of the good things about technology, even that I brought up, and I'm sure you did too, is that we can use that to communicate with so many people around the world. I just rang a friend in South Africa just 2 days ago, and on WhatsApp, free of charge, could talk to him as clear as he's in the room next door to me. I communicate regularly with a very good buddy in Athens, almost weekly on social media, and have done for the last 11 years. So he's a digital pen pal. Got a buddy in America who he's off social media because of the bad political environment in America. So we occasionally send each other news updates via old-fashioned email.
And FaceTime.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. Yeah, we haven't even mentioned FaceTime or Zoom or anything.
Yeah, Zoom and WhatsApp, you can do video. I do the WhatsApp when I speak to my family in the UK. Incredible. I mean, every now and again it goes a little bit wobbly, but man, like ringing 15 numbers before you actually ring the number, and then wait, and then, oh, hello, you there? And then they go, yeah, and you have to do it all over again. It's a button now.
I know, it's brilliant. Well, the reason I thought that was ugly is because apart from the obvious, like we've just reiterated now, when we were going through that episode, I was trying to think of how to further the conversation. As you said, it's not scripted, but I and you, we put down points that we may follow or we may not, depending on how our discussion goes. But I remember thinking, gee, I'm up to point number 3 or 4 or 5, and and all I've got is 5.5 points, and we've been going for 10 minutes. I was sweating in the chair.
It's different now. Okay, my ugliest one, and when I say ugly, it's not something that I find was ugly. I just felt for you, because it was the one where it says to record or not. And that was a time you were so sick.
Oh, that one, yes.
You were dying, mate.
Yeah.
And I felt so, and we spoke about it, and I said, well, do you want to, Mully? Because you don't sound too great. And you went, yeah. And I'm going, oh, Mully, like, you're sure? yeah, I'll be fine. And you were coughing and spluttering, and I was thinking, oh, poor. And all I can imagine, because you wasn't here in the studio, obviously, you were self-confined yourself, I think, at your daughter's place. I'm thinking, poor bloke, he's turning up for work. And he's sick as a dog.
Oh, yeah. No, that was actually fun, that episode.
That got 16 downloads.
Did they?
Yeah, can you believe it?
Well, maybe there are people out there who understand empathy better than what I do. If he's suffering, I'll suffer with him.
Yeah, that was the one for me. I was thinking, oh, we do it, and we done it, and I'm glad we did, because you didn't want to stop, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm with you, buddy. But you sounded terrible, mate. Absolutely terrible.
Oh, my throat was killing me, and the symptoms I won't go into were not pretty. I survived. That thing went for 2 weeks. I remember you, when I told you that I'd got this flu-like symptoms that had come on, you said, oh, it's going around town, and it lasts for 2 weeks. And I thought, nah, it won't. Every time I have something like this, it's 3 days. It was 2 weeks. Yeah, I self-isolated away from people. And the only highlight, well, there was 2 highlights. No, 3. One was the episode you just mentioned, which I thought was a lot of fun. 2, my football team won the grand final of the Australian rules football competition, the Brisbane Lions. I could watch that and yell at the television without anybody telling me to be quiet and settle down or whatever. Of course, I caught up on quite a bit of reading, which was really good. I think I chewed through about 2.5 books, which was good. So, yeah, there's positives.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those, I was glad at the end and we got through it. And then, like you say, a couple of times you were back to normal. You were into it. I forget what the other episode was. But now, Noosa Now.
Before you get on to that, Lee, as we are reflecting back on our podcast journey for the year, I just want to run through, I've written down a small list of topics that we have spoken about this year.
Right.
Love and hate, Trump and American democracy, sex and relationships, movies and film stars, life and death, Putin, conspiracy theories, true or false, Olympic Games, nuclear war, men's loneliness.
That was a good one.
And does life have to have a purpose? Now, the reason I wanted to read out that small list, which is about a quarter of what we've covered over the last 9 months, is it shows a diversity of topics that you and I tackle. And as I've said a number of times, we are not experts in just about everything we talk about. We have an interest in these things. We'll do a little bit of research before we come on and record, and we just simply share our perspective as men, as individuals who have experienced some of these things or thought about them. And as I like to think of our podcast, it's kind of like a digital community where people can listen and say, all right, well, yeah, that's good. Oh, I like that. No, I don't agree with that. And that sparks off in our listeners' minds their own ideas or thoughts concerning some of these subjects. Now, if you're taking, for example, life and death, and we talked about, is it the big sleep or is it the big glory? People might say, well, I think this, I think that. And it provokes. And like I have said many times, I do like to call ourselves keen amateurs. Amateurs, people who don't know, we're not experts about a particular subject, that we know a little bit or enthused about a lot.
And all these subjects that we've done, still will continue to do, has come just out the blue. So we thought, okay, Mully, what do you reckon? Oh, I thought about this. Okay. What about the next one, Lee? Oh, I thought about this. Oh, great. I also like the First Loves one.
Yes.
I like that one.
Yes.
He didn't mention, but yeah. So we're nearly on 50 episodes.
See, First Loves, another thing that you could tackle there, is it possible to be in love with 2 people at the same time?
Yeah. Well, like we had to break down what love is. And like you said to me, okay, Lee, what was your first love? I said, well, I've had a lot of first loves. I said, no, you can't.
Oh, my first love was my surfboard.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, my first.
And then followed by Maureen.
Probably Lassie, I think. I don't know.
Then followed by Maureen, who broke my heart. Jeez.
Oh, the good old days, mate. Yeah, it's been, and hopefully it will continue to be, an amazing journey. We also incorporated Noosa Now in with Don't Get Me Started, because Don't Get Me Started is a standalone. Like Keith's Surf Town, it's standalone. Noosa Now, for us, or rather, was just meant to be topical. It wasn't meant to grow or expand in any shape or form. I wanted to celebrate Noosa and also get a third guest in to have a different vibe, which it brought. But it's sort of it's morphed into something quite different now. So that's going to be put on its own platform later on. But I'm going to ask Mully off the bat, and we've done, I think, 9 or 10 episodes. What was your favourite one?
For Noosa Now?
For Noosa Now. I've got 2. I can't define what one I would say is the best.
I'd say I have 2 as well. We had a young lady in here to do with interior decorating.
Morgan Brady.
She spoke really well about her profession, and she also didn't speak so much, but she mentioned that she lived in New York, I think, for 10 years, and she worked for Trump.
Yep.
Now, Trump is one of those topics that separates people, and they have opinions on. But I'm not interested in speaking about Trump from that point of view. What I would love to have opened up with her was, what was your personal experience with that man before he became involved in politics? What was he like as a boss? What was your opinion of him as a man? Not to go too deep into it, but to hear of somebody who's actually had a personal contact with him, because we hear of the man, the image that he fills the airways, the media ways, politics, whatever. And that was one of my favourites because she was a very sharp lady, very professional, as I said, and quite interesting. And I also enjoyed our episode when we interviewed our local Member of Parliament, Sandy Bolton. I thought she spoke again as somebody who was on top of her brief and hinted on the fact that there was a very interesting person behind her political facade, which is what she has to actually represent. He was a person who I think I'd like to get to know.
She took me aback. Never expected her to sit there and be who she was. She was accommodating and warm and funny and thoughtful, proactive in her work. She's a bloody warhorse.
She's amazing.
She's incredibly well-rounded and happy to participate
and
get involved and roll up her sleeves.
Well, I love the fact, Lee, that you're saying Noosa Now is going to be morphing into something a lot broader that will give us an opportunity, I'm hoping, to be able to say to these people, well, okay, you're in here, you're speaking about your professional life, you're speaking about your responsibilities or the role that you have to carry out in the community, such as Sandy as a politician who represents our area. But we'll be able to just shift it a little bit to open up who is the person, because I love finding out about people and their stories and what they have done and how they've become who they are, and it becomes a lot more interesting for me. And so I'm really pleased to hear that you want to expand this.
Yes, and the other thing, just another note about Sandy, she's the only independent in the whole of Queensland. Everyone's affiliated, she stands alone.
Well, not only that, which is admirable within itself, is that she is a true independent. There is a whole group of them in Victoria and New South Wales, and they call themselves Teals, and they're under an umbrella which is financed by a multi-millionaire environmental warrior. And they say we're independent, we're going to hold Parliament to account. Well, that's not true. And I've even heard them say democracy is not working. And that's not true either. Democracy might not be as healthy as it should be, but democracy is working because we have elections every 3 or 4 years, depending on state or federal. Those people are beholden to their paymaster. One of them had a campaign at a federal level last time around with a budget of nearly $1 million because these figures are declared publicly. Now, if you are being financed by a very wealthy person who gives you $1 million to try and get you elected in Parliament, you are not independent. That guy is your paymaster, your puppeteer, if you like. Now, Sandy doesn't have that. And this is what I love about her. No, this is what I admire about her. They tried to draw her into that so-called independent circle, and she said no. So she's effectively turning back saying no to a lot of financial support. It takes a very brave politician to do that.
Well, if you're listening, Sandy, which I'm sure you are, we're behind you 100%. You need anything sorted out, come see Mully. He'll deal with it. But yeah, my one too was Morgan. She came in, I'd known Morgan before. That's why I loved that she came on. She's a dynamo. And like I said, the day has to catch up with her. She's a mother of 2 beautiful children and her husband, Tim. Great crew. And her business, Pearl Interiors, has taken off and going from strength to strength. She's opened up a shop down the junction. So good on you, Morgan. Well done. My other one, apart from Sandy, which I really enjoyed, was Paulie Ewing.
Oh, yes, he was classic.
Yeah, from Noosa Springs Resort. He was great. He's a Canadian, had some funny stories, and I've known him for a while. He's a genuine guy, and we loved him on. Amazing. And both them, I think Morgan got 36 down downloads, and Paul was just one shy of 50.
Now, there you go. Well, see, these are people who walk the walk behind the talk. They're authentic. And Paul was there talking about fitness, and I'm looking at him and the guy's looking taunt, and I'm sitting here sweating, thinking about how unfit I am. And one story there of his endurance that was massive. And
I had to go lie down.
Yes, I was tired just listening to it, sitting on the chair. He was great.
It's mad.
We love dynamics when these people who, as you say, the day has to work hard to catch up with them.
But Mully, on a personal note, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure spending this time with you.
Ditto.
Creating this podcast, one of many. I've learned so much from you as well. Also got to know better, and I realise that you're not a bad bloke.
So the very first episode opened up in the first 2 minutes with you insulting me, and now we're
that was about hemorrhoids, actually, I think.
Was it? And here we are wrapping up for the year, and you're telling me I'm not a bad bloke, and you have some bromance going on here.
Well,
it's been worth it then.
But no, I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to 2025 as well. We've got a lot going on, which we'll share with you probably in our next episode. About the future of the Don't Get Me Started studio and what's happening. But in the meantime, Mully, as always, I'll leave you the last word.
Well, Lee, thank you, and for those nice things that you simply said about me then. It's been my pleasure as well to work with you and to grow with you and to share this podcasting enterprise. And as we've alluded to, we have grown into quite a professional studio here that we've invested a lot of time and money into, which means that we have a great year ahead of us coming ahead in 2025 with some opportunities to grow in our podcasting and utilising the studio and a few other exciting avenues that are opening up to us. So, Lee, I've loved the journey, and I've loved in a very short time that we've come to where we are and what has happened along the way. So when you said let's choose the good, the bad and the ugly episodes, it was a revisit to what we've done. And each one of them, even though some we've enjoyed more than others, has just been absolutely fantastic. So Lee, I want to thank you. You know, I love you like a brother, and I just wish you and your family all the best for the Christmas, and to our listeners, the same. So until our next episode, it's hooroo from me.
And it's goodbye from me.